It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by AgileDad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. It's Friday, and it's time for our Agile Not So Agile episode of the Daily Stand Up Podcast. And today, I wanted to talk to you about something that has been burning on my mind for a little bit here. It's a concept that I firmly believe in, and it's something that I find many people struggle with. So, my hope is that I can approach this in such a way that it doesn't offend anyone, but at the same time offer some pretty clear insight. I call this story 10 Bridges. And we'll just say once there was a young man who decided in his life that he wanted to do all that he could to be the best person he could. He wanted to give back to his community. He wanted to serve others when he could. He wanted to help uplift others. He found a powerful church and faith that he built his testimony in, and he did everything he could to try to be just a really good person. Now, on the surface so far, you're like, this sounds great. But along the way, he had some internal struggles and demons and things that he was facing, whether it was depression or whether it's anxiety or whether it's stress or whether it's the way he treated people. Or in this case, maybe he had addiction. Maybe it was alcohol, maybe it was drugs. And what he found was that he always wanted to get away from reality for any part that he could so that he could celebrate things that he believed in that didn't hurt. In his real world, life was not all chutes and ladders. Life was tough and things were bad. But he didn't want to give off that impression to others. He wanted others to continue to believe in his happiness and what was going on. And as a result, he turned to other vices to try to squeak him by. But what he quickly discovered is that those vices would take over and that it made things interesting. I'm a firm believer that vulnerability is strength, but at the same time, I also believe that people need to be aware. And what I mean by that is this individual. So let's walk through and talk about these bridges. So this individual had an opportunity to have a meaningful friendship with lots of people in their life. But one of the things that they did was, yes, they focused on a friendship, but they focused on a friendship in such a way that they always felt like other people were trying to be their friend because, well, they want something from me. What do they want from me? Why are they trying to be my friend? Because they didn't have self-value or self-worth. And when you approach friendships that way, all you're trying to do is see what's in it for you. It makes it very hard for other people to be genuine and to really invest in you. Because if you're constantly looking at them and saying that all they want to know is, what's in it for them, it's not going to bring you far. It's not going to get you to where you need to be. But when that happens, their feelings get hurt, they get upset, and you end up losing valuable friendships. And what I've learned is that if you can't stop asking what the ulterior motive is or why someone's interested in you or what you do, whatever the case may be, that is going to cause you to lose valuable friendships and to lose valuable time with people that you care about. One of the things that we need to be really careful with is we need to make sure that when we build relationships that we are not always judging or questioning or second guessing or not trusting what's happening around us, because that would certainly burn a bridge. This individual lost several friendships that way, and it was an awful place to be in. Then came the next bridge. The next bridge was a choice of what they wanted to do with their life, how they were going to find their way foundationally, what they were going to do to help uplift others. And they had a clear path that was easy, that was a bridge well crossed, it was stable, it was everything it needed to be. But then they had other bridge that was filled with adventure and unknown factors and things that were happening at every turn. And it sounded really exciting. Well, of course, this individual crossed the less trodden bridge and found that They burned a bridge with many of the things that were easy and simple that were now made very complex and hard for them. That they were unable to make course corrections because once they crossed this bridge, there was no going back. The third bridge this individual needed to cross involved other decisions in their life about things that were important. And I think you kind of see where I'm going with this. Whether it's a career decision or a life journey decision, every time we make one of those, what I call pivotal decisions or detrimental decisions, and I call it, many different things, but when we make those critical decisions, each time we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else, right? Just like each time we say no to something, that means that we're pushing in a direction of saying yes to something else. And I think that's important for us to understand that you're only given a limited number of bridges in your life. You're only given a limited amount of times to make the wrong choice before the wrong choices overwhelm you and become part of the destruction of your own personal well being. So, my question for you is, how do we know when we approach those bridges, and what do we do to accelerate down the right bridge? And the answer is not simple. Part of it is a journey of self discovery. You have to figure out who you are and what your foundation is and what drives you. You need to think more eternally. And I love it. In one of the conferences where we had church leaders speak to us, one of the messages they shared was think celestial. And I think that if you think long term about what's going to happen in eternities and how this impact is going to last forever and ever, that the amount of time that you're here on earth is only a drop in a bucket. It's a mere second in the prospect of eternity. But what you do here could leave a lasting impact forever. So the question becomes, did you do the things that leave a lasting impact, or did you skip those things and do other things? And I just feel like if we understand foundationally what we're trying to do, it's going to make our lives a lot easier. If we have a foundation to lean on, it's going to make things so much easier. And it's going to make it so much better for us when we do come to one of those bridges. We'll know which path to go on. Okay, I think the bigger picture here is that we also need to understand the second piece of this, where we talk about what our goal is, where are we trying to go, and how achievable is that goal. And I think that that one is probably the most important one, because we don't want to set goals that are so far out of our reach that we can't get to them, but we want to create smaller mini bridges that will eventually build one big bridge so that we can leapfrog, if you will, to get to our goals. And then the final thing is a story to tell. And I always talk about a story to tell, and I say, when you tell your story or when others tell your story, what would it include? I don't want you to have a story just about what's happening in your life today, but I was taught by a very wise woman. We'll just call her Happy Feet Holmes. Shout out to you if you heard that. She taught me that people pay for the story. And she's right, that people don't want to invest in a product or service. They want to invest in an experience. They want to invest in a story. They want to invest in something that they can talk about for years to come and that they can share with all those around them. People love to pay for experiences. This is why companies like Universal and Walt Disney, this is why they do so well, because they create lifelong memories and experiences for people that they'll never forget, right? And on the flip side, you got places like the post office and the DMV that also create those experiences, just not in a positive light. But I think the big picture here is that in our lives, we only get a certain number of opportunities to cross a bridge, with the realization that once we cross this bridge, it may not be easy to go back and cross the other bridge. We need to make decisions that are going to help us today, but also help us long term. We need to start thinking on a more global or celestial front about what impact these decisions are going to have in our lives, and realize that even though sometimes we make a poor decision, that there's still another bridge awaiting us, and we need to move forward and not try to always scoot backwards, because sometimes getting backwards across the bridge is the hardest thing we can do. So my hope is that if you're battling or struggling with anything, that you'll reach out and extend yourself to someone else, that you'll give the opportunities for people to extend themselves to you, that you'll build these bridges, and that you'll help others cross the bridges that they need to cross, so that you can uplift them and they can uplift you and cause a world that's filled with compassion, with dignity, with honor, and with empathy. That's going to do it for today. I hope you have an amazing weekend. Until next week, stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Do take care.